30,000 years ago, the environment was a living, breathing web of intent. To early humans, every river, every silent forest, and every violent storm possessed a conscious spirit. Survival was a fragile tension. A delayed spring melt, a shift in the caribou migration, or a sudden, unexplainable fever were the direct actions of unpredictable forces exerting their will on the tribe. You couldn't fight a blizzard with a spear. To ensure their own existence, ancient humans had to find a way to negotiate directly with the invisible, chaotic ecosystem surrounding them. This pressure created the shaman. They served as a survival specialist, a practical intermediary who managed the community's relationship with the environment. This role required the practitioner to cross a psychological threshold. They had to leave behind normal awareness to speak directly with the ghosts of the dead and the masters of the animal herds. Shamanism was humanity's first practical technology, engineered to navigate a terrifying and sentient universe. Shamanic drumming functions as a vehicle for this journey. The relentless rhythmic beating physically synchronizes brainwaves, shifting the mind out of waking consciousness. Performing these acoustics in the pitch blackness of a cave induces extreme sensory deprivation. Denied external input, the brain generates its own internal reality. Navigating the three-tiered cosmos, the heavens, the human world, and the realm of the dead, demands a complete shedding of the shaman's human form. Siberian shamans wore protective armor for this crossing. They covered their coats in iron plates and heavy pendants, creating a literal exoskeleton to shield them during spiritual travel. They used animal masks and bird wing fringes to embody the hunted prey. Through this physical mimicry, the shaman aligned their identity with the spirits they sought to track. These material artifacts functioned as psychological triggers. Donning the heavy hides and clinking iron prepared the shaman's mind for the specific encounters ahead. As the trance deepens, the visual cortex produces abstract geometric shapes called entoptics. Grids, zigzags, and clusters of dots pulse and expand. These baseline shapes are decoded by the brain and transformed into complex hallucinations, pulling the shaman fully into the spirit realm. Inside this state, the shaman faces their most dangerous task, engaging in violent combat with malevolent forces to retrieve the stolen souls of the sick. They also sought out the animal mother. By negotiating with this guardian spirit, the shaman secured the release of game for the upcoming hunt. The ecstatic trance was a perilous psychological battleground where the physical fate of the community was decided. When the shaman emerged from the dark, they brought back healing, guidance, and a renewed balance between the tribe and the wild. They documented the intense visions they experienced in the trance, creating humanity's oldest surviving art. These red figures on the rock surface provide a literal record of the trance state. They capture the specific geometric shapes and animal transformations experienced during the journey. We see identical archetypes, like the antlered human-animal hybrid, across entirely isolated continents. This recurrence serves as evidence of a shared psychological phenomenon hardwired into the human mind. The San viewed the physical rock face as a permeable membrane, a window separating the human world from the inhabitants of the spirit realm. Ancient cave art provides a complex map of the trance experience. Curious, entirely isolated ancient cultures across the globe developed this exact same system of mediation. This occurred because figures like the world tree are innate archetypes. They emerge from the biological architecture of our neural network. Shamanism allowed for the externalization of these internal visions. By projecting mental images onto stone, early humans developed a systematic way to share abstract meaning and symbolic thought. Shamanism was humanity's first framework for looking into the vast darkness of the universe and demanding an answer. To measure reality today, we rely on a framework known as consensual science. It requires that any phenomenon be physically observable, measurable, and agreed upon by multiple researchers before it is accepted as real. Anthropologist Michael Harner challenged this worldview while working within the heart of the modern academic institution. He argued that this strict reliance on physical consensus created a massive blind spot in our understanding of the universe. Harner pointed out that science often dismisses the existence of spirits or souls before even attempting to investigate them. He viewed this a priori rejection as an act of faith rather than an application of the scientific method. By refusing to acknowledge any phenomenon that cannot be captured by physical instruments, we may be ignoring entirely different, highly organized systems of knowledge. For tens of thousands of years, humans did not rely on physical instruments to define the boundaries of the world. They understood reality through deliberately altered states of consciousness. In the darkness of these caves, our ancestors moved beyond their everyday senses. They mapped a world that existed entirely apart from the physical stone of the walls. These early humans were not inventing myths to explain the unknown. They were practicing a specialized technology of the mind, designed to pierce the veil of the material world. This technology required a specialist, the shaman. From the Siberian taiga to the American Arctic, these practitioners were trained to move between the world of the living and the world of the spirits. If we view these practices merely as primitive superstitions, we overlook the true scale of how human consciousness has evolved to interact with its environment. Michael Harner's work provides a specific map for how the human mind filters and interacts with external data. This framework begins by identifying our default state of mind. This is the ordinary state of consciousness, or OSC. This narrow boundary filters out external data so we can focus on immediate physical survival in the everyday world. To move past these filters, the shaman uses a catalyst. Rhythmic auditory driving, most often the steady beating of a hand drum, triggers a shift in the brain's frequency. This transition leads to the shamanic state of consciousness. The mind's usual survival filters fracture, expanding perception beyond default limits. This opens the door to non-ordinary reality, a dimension accessible once the brain changes its internal state. Harner argued that non-ordinary reality is a parallel landscape that is always present, but only becomes perceptible when the mind shifts away from its ordinary survival mode. This shift in perception led to Harner's most significant challenge to modern science, the claim that what a shaman experiences is objective evidence. In the shamanic worldview, the entities and landscapes encountered in non-ordinary reality are not metaphors or symbols generated by the subconscious. These encounters are treated as empirical facts gathered through direct, first-hand sensory perception while in a trance state. The shaman interacts with these forces exactly as they would with physical objects or animals in the waking world, recording their observations as real, observed data. This suggests that our experience of the universe is dictated by our state of mind. When that internal state changes, the empirical facts of the world change along with it. This raises a fundamental question. If non-ordinary reality is an empirical fact, why is it invisible to most people? Harner's framework suggests that non-ordinary reality is inherently non-consensual. It cannot be seen by everyone at once. This lack of universal agreement is a necessary feature of how the universe is organized. The mind is built to filter out the complexity of the supernatural to ensure we can focus on physical life. The shaman exists to bypass these filters on behalf of the group. They are trained to navigate and survive a realm that would be overwhelming to the average person. Shamans function as an essential sensory organ, absorbing the psychological weight of communicating with a realm hidden from the rest of the group. Michael Harner's legacy is the bridge he built between modern empirical science and the ancient spiritual ecology of our ancestors. His work forces us to consider that the universe contains forces measurable only when the human mind itself is used as the instrument of observation. Shamanism represents a primal discipline and humanity's oldest technology, a method developed specifically to navigate the shadows sitting right beside our own reality.